Well, it's 6:33 and begin with the remote meeting introduction, which says pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and Governor Healy's March 29th, 2023 revised order extending remote participation by all members in any meeting of a public body. This meeting of the Great Barrington Board of Health will be conducted both in person and via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at townofgb.org. For this meeting, members of the public and committee members may attend the meeting. Well, this is not the right paragraph, but it should say that this is only remote participation. And those who wish to participate may do so by following the instructions at the top of this agenda. For those who are, yes, that's what it should say. Because I think when we updated our agenda, this is the hybrid introduction. But I think people get the gist who are joining. This is Zoom only. The links are on the agenda. And we'll officially call the meeting to order with a roll call vote, which is Peter Stanton.
Here.
Dr. Ruby Chang.
Here.
And I am here as well, Michael Lanou. Our first order of business is approval of minutes from December.
Any discussion, or should I make the motion?
I'm good for motion.
I make the motion to approve the minutes from December.
I second.
And our roll call will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Next we move down to Board of Health questions, updates, or any other thoughts you might have. And I believe, Ruby, you had some things you wanted to bring up or talk about?
I don't know where to start, actually. I think it is getting close to, it is the winter season, and we're seeing quite a bit of upper respiratory illnesses. So I just want to remind people that if you feel uncomfortable, it's definitely reasonable to put a mask on. Don't be afraid not to. And it's not worth it catching the flu or COVID, which is still in our wastewater. And it's gradually going up, even though Massachusetts is much lower rate than other states, especially the South and West. So just a reminder. Second of all is that, as you all know, H5N1 has been in the news for quite a bit, and we do need to take precautions because there has been some cases of transmission to people, especially people working with animals. So just to be on the safe side is to wear a mask and wash your hands when you are handling chickens and eggs and meat. We are doing wastewater monitoring, and as you well know, if you do influenza A test, a number of them do get evaluated and do subtyping to look for the different strains of the flu virus. So not to be afraid to report your symptoms, and also to realize that there is specific monitoring systems for this. So that's just general information. Another thought that I had was, as you know, with Housatonic Waterworks and the issues going on, is that I proposed that the Board of Health agree to have some exploration of possible federal or state grants that can be helpful to us to help us mitigate some of these problems as you well know, the problem mainly has to do with Housatonic Waterworks is a private entity. It's not a municipal entity, which would make it hard to provide any kind of assistance. But I would like to take an opportunity to kind of explore those issues and see what possible funding there can be to help us, since we're kind of stuck right now. And I'd like to get the opinion of the other two members.
You want us to weigh in now, or you want to keep
Yeah.
going?
Yeah, I
Oh,
just wanted to know if that was okay. That was okay if we just explore, because it's hard for me as a person to ask people about funding, but if I do it as a Board of Health member, then I have more leverage in trying to figure out, are there any grants available?
and this would be just to say, to bring it to their attention, to say, hey, there's this or that.
Yes, it's not to apply for anything. This is just to give us information about what possibilities there are and under what situations they would be available.
I'm fine if you'd like to do that. I have no problem with that.
Okay, I just wanted to let people know, so I don't want to overstep my bounds.
Sure.
So,
Yeah,
okay,
fine.
thank you. Peter,
Yep, all good.
you're good. Okay.
Okay. And anything else? Um,
For me.
all right. I don't have anything in particular for this month. Yes. Anything further, Ruby, you wanted to discuss?
There's lots of things, but not right now. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Well, then we'll move down to department updates. The first is 212 Highland Street, and a few hours ago, I forget, late afternoon, I received a letter which I forwarded on to both you, Ruby, and Peter. I think Peter had mentioned he got it, and also to Rebecca. But I figured we get Rebecca's reports first, and then we can go into specifics. I had responded to the owner of that property, and I had encouraged them to come to tonight's meeting. As a way of, if we had any questions, it's always helpful to hear from property owners, of course. But I don't see them in attendance, so we'll do the best we can with Rebecca's report, but you can take it away, Rebecca.
Okay. So this is not set up as a vote taking item on our agenda. This was just to give you an update on what the health department has done to date. I think James gave you a briefing last month on his actions to that point on this property. So this started when I was out on leave. I think very soon after I went on leave. In September, the property owner's attorney contacted us for potential housing code violations, and it's just kind of gone on from then in September. But we had our final reinspection December 27th, so 2 weeks ago now, I think. Week ago, yeah, 2 weeks ago. Hoping for full compliance on that correction order. I think you're familiar with the property I'm talking about, but James had come to you previously and asked for an extension. So this correction order had been going on for 60 days. So when we were hoping for full compliance, but when we did the inspection, there were 2 outstanding violations. I'll get into their letter subsequently. I'll just give you an update for what's happened thus far. and so because there were two outstanding violations, the deadline had passed. The next corrective action for the health department is to take the matter to housing court or issue fines. The remaining two violations were not conditions deemed to endanger, so not on that higher scale of seriousness, but still housing code violations. So what we did was issue fines for those two remaining violations, and we issued a non-criminal offense ticket. And so the bottom end of what we can issue for a fine is $10 all the way up to $500. We decided to issue, oh, and so these violations are daily. So the fines will occur as long as every day that these housing code violations persist. So what we issued to the property owners was a $10 per day ticket. $10 per violation per day. So $20 for the length of time past the compliance deadline these persist. So we, I think, got receipt of the receival of those violations sometime this week. James was gonna check in next week, I think, on the 15th with the property owners to see if they've made progress with full compliance and potentially schedule a reinspection at the property. But we're going to give them a little bit more time. So that was my update until we got the letter from the property owners today. And I didn't plan to discuss it because there's nothing, there's no request in that letter that you can take action on. So they're requesting for the rescinding of our inspection form. You can't rescind an inspection form. It's our formal notes on what we observe during our inspection. And they also asked for you to rescind the fines that the health department has issued. This board does not have the authority to do that. And I'm gonna explain this to the property owners tomorrow, that if they want to contest the fines that we've issued, they have to take it up with the clerk magistrate on the Southern Berkshire District Court. So once we issue fines, it's a little bit removed from this board and goes to a higher court. Does
Okay,
that
makes sense.
maybe clarify any point of that?
No, nope, that's very
Oh,
interesting.
thank you so much. It's, yeah, thanks so much.
In the letter they sent to us, is their characterization of the situation more or less accurate, or?
Well, like I said, I haven't been here for most of the duration of this issue has been on the health department's plate, and I trust the judgment of our health inspector, and he's said that there's a lot of dispute between the two parties, and it makes achieving the same goal pretty difficult. But from our point of view, the occupant has been really easy to work with. She hasn't barred our entry with doing inspections. So from our perspective, that hasn't been the case, that the occupant has been difficult to work with. So
Can it be, I mean, from based on their letter, it sounds like they're the way they characterize the situation is that they keep trying to get in to finish the repairs, and she won't let them. And I know we've run into these type of situations before. Can it be impressed upon the occupant to let them come in and get this work done? Or is there more to it than that?
Well, I don't think that this is my opinion, but the homeowners do not have to do the work themselves. From what portion of this issue I've observed, the occupant doesn't have an issue letting third-party contractors come in to do the work. I think her issue is letting the owners who she doesn't get along with very well into her living space. That's my perspective on it, is that she has a problem with them coming into her living space, but not a problem with contractors coming in to fix the violations. So, and anyone in the audience, do you want me to pull up this letter since we're talking about it? Or,
I don't know if we need to get into any more if we're not going to take any particular action.
Yeah, I was just curious if there was any if there's anything we could do in terms of just saying, listen, got to get this resolved. I mean, in their letter, they mentioned that some people they hired to do work weren't comfortable with working there, and
it's really hard to do this outside of a public hearing because obviously the occupant is going to have their own perspective. The landlords are going to have their own perspective. This letter is very one-sided.
I imagine
So,
that it was.
yeah, I think it's,
But we're also not, housing court seems like the place that they need to go. And it sounds like maybe they have, and maybe they've, at least the letter implied that they'd gotten orders and had requested the police to, exercise that. But it does, we're not housing court,
right.
which seems like where they need to be, at
Yeah.
least based on what the owners are saying.
Ironically enough, this started in housing court. It came to us after they had been in housing court, and I think the judge or the lawyer kicked it to us. But
With what goal in mind? What was the focus at that time?
well, I think they were in housing court for eviction. The landlords were trying to evict this person. But what came to us initially was a complaint of hoarding. So I think she goes into that a little bit in her letter too. And James, he's amazing. He drafted this whole timeline of events. So we can talk about how long it actually took the health department to get in here into this unit. I think she says 3 weeks, but the initial complaint was of a hoarding concern. And by the time when we got in there, that wasn't a violation that we found. So, or hoarding isn't necessarily a violation. What would be a violation is blocked egresses. And we didn't find that there.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll stay tuned to see how this progresses.
Yeah. And I'm gonna instruct them on how to contest our fines. They can definitely do that, but it's outside of this board's jurisdiction at the moment.
Sorry, my landline's ringing. I don't know how to shut the ringer off, so.
No, that's okay. Do you want me to just continue down the health department updates?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I do anyway. I don't know about Mike.
Yeah. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna share what our operating budget proposal is. Can you all see that? Yeah, okay. So I try to do this annually. I just want to give you a snapshot of what's going to go before the finance committee and the select board coming up in February. We'll have our preliminary meetings and then it'll go to a public hearing sometime in March, I think. But this year has been a little bit of a challenge. Oh gosh, I took just the portion of our operating budget, but can you see my arrow?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes.
So this column here is what the health department originally proposed. This column here is, sorry, this column here is what our current budget is. So this, if you want to just have a comparison, this is what we're working on this year. This is what we proposed for the next fiscal year. So, and well, I'll go into that, but, and then this column here is the health department, all the departments were asked to resubmit a budget with a no increase. So this is our original proposal, which is just level services, same services as last year. And like I said, we were given a directive to submit budget proposals that include a 0% increase, and that's what you have here. Today I met with the town accountant and assistant town manager, interim town manager, and we decided to put this yellow column back into the health department's budget. So I'm sorry if that's really confusing, but I just want to show you what we started with, where we were, and now where we've ended up, and what's going to go to the finance committee. Our biggest line is our contracted services line. This is where we pay for our nursing contract, our sharps removal. We have a kiosk in the office, and people come and bring their sharps, so they're safely disposed of, and then we pay for a contract to have the kiosk serviced, again, by professionals who know about safe handling of needles. And then the biggest contract that we have, the biggest expense, is our beach testing. So from Memorial Day through Labor Day, every week we test Lake Mansfield, a portion of the Green River, and Old Maids Park has a section of Williams River that runs through it, and all three of those locations are very popular swimming locations. And then moving down to travel and training. So this travel and training not only includes what you think it includes, is like training courses, continuing education, but the travel expense pays for our health inspectors' mileage. So because we use our own vehicles to drive around town multiple times a day, back and forth to inspections, that vehicle user is eligible for a mileage reimbursement. So a big portion of our travel and training line goes to mileage reimbursement. Dues and membership, and then supplies. So we hardly ever use the entirety of our supplies budget. It's nice to have a little cushion in our budget in case some unexpected expenses come up throughout the year. For example, when we were planning our fiscal year 20 budget, we wouldn't have never known that COVID was gonna come up that year. And we used a lot of our supplies budget to initially pay for masks and PPE before they were subsidized and paid for by the Department of Public Health. But that's just an example of why we like to have a little bit of cushion in our supplies budget. One note about the supplies line, I moved $1,000 from here up into our animal inspector line, which is in the salary portion of our budget. And I did that because every year we're paying for animal inspector expenses out of our supplies budget, and I just wanted that to be a little bit more clear, that when we pay for bat euthanization or anything related to our animal inspector duties, that it's coming from that line. So I don't know if all of that was really confusing and if any of it made sense, but I just wanted to show you, and please feel free to ask for more clarification.
Yeah, can you remind me who is our animal inspector and how do we fund their services?
Yeah, so it's really evolved in the 8 years that I've been here. Um, but it is currently James. He's our health inspector. Um, they're paid $1,000 as a stipend for those duties.
Okay, and do we have, so he's the one that goes and inspects the barns
Yeah.
to make sure it's in compliance. Do we have a kennel that we can contain stray pets or animals, or what do we do with that?
We don't have a kennel. This is a good conversation for Shep Evans, who was previously the animal control officer. I
Yeah.
know it's been something that he's had on his mind and brought up a couple times, but the last time him and I spoke about it, there was not a kennel that would accept stray dogs or dogs on the loose.
So we're at this point, we don't really have any ability, if someone turns in a stray animal, we don't have any ability to hold on to them, or is there any way we could contact like a local veterinarian that would be willing to do that?
Ruby, how about I check in with Shep to
Okay.
see what is in existence currently, and then if he
Okay.
says nothing, how about you and I take this up again?
Okay.
Because I really don't know very much about what happens.
Okay, that's fine, thank you.
So Rebecca, just for one last time, so the yellow column is what's going to go to the finance committee.
Right.
The one immediately to the left, that's the one you submitted?
This is I submitted these two columns. This
Okay.
is what I ideally would like in
Yep.
our budget.
Yep.
This reflects a 0% increase
Yep.
in our budget, and this is a happy medium.
Okay. And those additions that they put back in, they're mainly going to the contracted services and
A
supplies.
little bit of supplies. We
Yep.
are one edit that isn't reflected here, I should have said, that we discussed today is our dues and memberships.
Mm,
We're gonna forego them for next year and move that $200 back up into the contracted services line. So we won't have, and that's fine because the last couple years we haven't we haven't participated in any memberships. So that $200 will go back into the contracted services line.
okay. Okay. All right. Very good. Now I see it.
Oh, sorry. Are you still looking? I can send this to you.
No, that's fine. It makes sense to me now. I think I was looking at I needed to look at the very bottom. I kept looking at the top, and now it makes sense now that I see it.
When I send the full document to you, you'll have the titles at the top of the column.
Okay.
All right. And when you've had another chance to really look at it, feel free to reach out with any questions. I'm going to move on to 2025 permit update. This is the time of the year where I tell you how many people didn't renew their licenses by the deadline. I'm not going to name names unless you want me to. I'm just going to tell you how many of each category. but next week we'll start a little bit stricter of enforcement. So food establishments, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 establishments that currently do not have a 2025 food establishment license. Tobacco licenses, 4 are outstanding. And then for lodging, we have 2, but I think 1 is getting cleared up today or tomorrow. So hopefully we'll only have the 1 remaining. So a couple years ago, you approved the health department to tack on late fees. We have a deadline. The permits expire December 31st, but we have a deadline of 2 weeks prior to that. So that not everyone is waiting till the date of the day before their permits expire to get their documents in. And so we charge a $25 late fee per week. The permit is outstanding. So that's one avenue of enforcement that we utilize. Also, James is really diligent about sending reminders. So I think starting in November, he sent out weekly reminders to all of the folks that had outstanding permits about what they needed, and is also continuously emailing what documents are outstanding. So from my perspective, James has done a really good job about communicating from our end. So going forward, I think we decided maybe next Tuesday to start going around to the food establishments and giving one last in-person reminder. And if they can't finish their applications, issue a cease and desist order. And I know that sounds extreme, but like I said, our office has sent out a lot of reminders to these permit holders, and it is illegal to operate without a food permit or annual license from the health department. So, and that goes for tobacco and lodging.
Does that include the temporary food, like the food trucks that we have in town?
The food trucks are included. They're not under they're not considered temporary. They're considered a regular food establishment. We just call them mobile food establishments.
Right.
But they are required to get annual licenses. And I don't have any of the food trucks on my list.
Okay.
Yeah. That's
Rebecca,
it.
one thing I thought of is that I'm kind of curious to know like how much money we actually bring in per year as a department through our permitting, through our issuing of fines, through all of the inspections that we do. It just is also good to look at what we actually bring to the town and not just what we utilize from the town.
It's approximately $25,000. I don't have exact numbers, and I will get exact numbers because you're right, this is really valuable information, and I'm just thinking that it needs to be in our annual reports too, how much money the health department brings in between inspections, inspectional services, and food annual permits. But it's approximately $25,000.
That would be important to bring up at our finance meeting as well, because we're one of the few departments that actually bring in money
Mm-hmm.
to the town, whereas a lot of other departments utilize the funding but don't have any way of bringing money into the town.
Okay.
I'm just writing.
What's that? Sorry.
No, thanks. I'm just writing that down.
Okay. All right. if there's nothing further, department update wise, I see that our executive session says that we will not return to regular session, but we have citizen speak time after that. So I propose that we move citizen speak time up now. And then we can convene into executive session as the agenda lists out. So if that's fine with you, all of you,
Yes.
Makes
we
sense.
can do, there's not many people in attendance, so citizen speak time, media questions. We'll take all those if there's anyone who would like to do that. You all know the drill. Please raise your hand. And just need your name and address for those who are not in the media. And for those who are, just need your name. And I see a hand up already, which is Shaw Isaacson. So we'll go to you first.
You want me to move him over, Michael?
Yeah, I
Oh.
can't do it.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, hello. Can anybody hear me out there?
We can hear you.
Very good, thank you. Shaw Isaacson, managing editor of the Berkshire Edge. I would like to request the letter that you refer to from the property owner with property violations, and I would also like to request a list of violators of food establishment licenses, tobacco licenses, and lodging licenses. Those who have not renewed their licenses. If you could send that to me by email, that would be great.
Okay.
Does everyone have my email?
I
I have
believe.
your email,
Yep.
but I'm just gonna say, because I can't help myself, that I'd really like to avoid some public shaming. So I'll give you the list, but I'd just like you to give the establishments the benefit of the doubt to get their permits in. So
I mean, historically, they eventually come around, and I think that's why we instituted our late fees, is it was to encourage people to come in earlier. And I think it's been somewhat effective, or maybe largely effective, but there's always some stragglers.
there's always some stragglers.
I appreciate your time. Thank you for
Okay.
taking my question.
Great, thank you. If there's anyone else in attendance who would like to ask a question, now is your opportunity. I think there's only one other person in attendance. Another one looks like it's just a AI note taker.
That's
One quick question while we just give it a minute. I saw Mike Hugo pop on and off. And Rebecca, I saw you had forwarded an email, but it looked like it was a different subject matter. I mean, he wanted to weigh in at a different meeting. Was I getting that right?
Yes, I want to respond to him, and maybe we can talk about it on our next agenda item.
Okay, he may
But
have,
I don't know how much of what he wants to share has been exclusively in executive session. So
right. He was with us a few executive sessions ago. He may have that same link that we've been using. So he may show up over there.
okay.
All right. All right. Well, I'm not seeing any other hands or questions wishing to be asked. So we will now move. There we are. We'll now move towards convening into executive session. As the agenda states, the following purpose is to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation, Houstonic Water Works Company versus Town of Great Barrington and Great Barrington Board of Health et al. Berkshire Superior Court Civil Action number 2476 CV 001150. If the chair declares an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the board or town's litigating or negotiating position, I do so declare. And I will look for a motion to convene executive session, and we will not be returning to regular session.
I make a motion to convene an executive session.
All right, I think you read that one on the agenda. Do you have that one up in front of you?
I do. Move that the board meet in executive session pursuant to MGL CH 30A Section 21A3 for the following purpose: to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation by and with Housatonic Waterworks Company, Berkshire Superior Court Civil Action number 2476 CV 00150.
I second.
And our roll call will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. So we'll now, do we need to take a vote on adjourning this open session?
Think so.
Yeah,
All right,
close it.
I think so too. So we'll take a motion to adjourn tonight's public session.
I make the motion to close the public session.
I second.
Our final roll call for this session will be Peter,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
and I vote aye as well. Thank you for everyone who attended. We'll see you next month, and I'll see all of you shortly on the executive link. All right,